The number one advice I hear for learning new licks is to learn a lick, say this one, learn on different pentatonic positions, and play over a backing track. But it never worked for me. I always forget the licks afterwards. But the one trick that's really helped me learn and memorize new licks well, that I kind of discovered by accident, but that famous guitar players like John Mayer Saley do too, is to alternate between playing the rhythm myself on the guitar and the licks I'm trying to learn, starting with just using the bass notes for a rhythm. Let me show you how it works. So the other day I was trying to learn this lick. So what we're going to do is to start with a chord progression and start simple. So we're going to start with the 1-4-5 blues progression. So 1, 4, 5. But instead of playing the full chords, we're only going to be playing the bass notes. So that would be 1, 4, 5, and start improvising with the lick mixed in there. Let's see how that works. So basically I just alternate between playing the bass notes and the lick, hitting the bass notes twice each time. And I find that with this method, it actually allows me to remember the licks versus when I was using backing tracks. I find that it allows me to experiment with and just come up with different ways to vary up the licks very naturally. I think this method works better than using backing tracks because backing tracks usually provide way too much information and context. Like usually there will be like drums and bass and many other instruments mixed in. So it becomes way too specific. What might work on one backing track might not work on another. Whereas if I'm playing the rhythm myself on the guitar, on just the guitar, the way I'm using the licks will actually translate well to many other backing tracks. It teaches me to be flexible. It's also just way more fun. And I find that when I'm playing the rhythm myself, it helps me become more intentional in how I'm going to play the licks in between the rhythm parts. That's also why if you must use a backing track, I recommend having as little instruments as possible. Like ideally just the guitar and maybe bass, but that's it. If it helps, you can also use a metronome as you alternate between playing rhythm and the licks. But I personally don't really do that. I find it to be more freeing not playing to a click. It also makes it easier for me to practice. I can just pick up my guitar and start doing this with no tools. Now let's keep leveling up. So what we're going to do is take the same 1-4-5 blues progression, but spread them far apart across the neck. So 1, 4, 5. So it forces me to play the lick in different positions. Let's see how that works. Sounds way cooler. So the 1-4-5 blues progression really works for this exercise because it mostly stays on the one chord, and that's where the lick mostly works on, but then it goes to the 4 and 5 sometimes. So it teaches you how to play the lick even when there's more tension in the chords underneath, but at the same time it very quickly takes you back to the one chord again in case you mess up. So it strikes a very good balance between easy mode and hard mode. Next, now that we're more and more comfortable playing both rhythm and lead, we're actually going to add in the other notes inside of each chord, so it sounds more like we're actually soloing over a song. So that would be 1, 4, 5. Let's see how that sounds. So what we're doing here is we're keeping the same kind of straight rhythm by adding in the rest of the notes to the chords using our index finger barred across the top 3 strings, and then using our thumb to play the bass notes, so it's easier to switch between playing rhythm and lead. Now to really make sure we can play and know how to play the lick in different situations on different songs, we're actually going to change up the rhythm a little bit. So far I've been doing a pretty straight rhythm. So it's been fairly easy to just drop the lick in between. So what I like to do is to take the rhythm of a hip-hop beat I like at the moment and apply it to this improv exercise. So for example, recently I've been really into the song Passion Fruit by Drake, and the beat goes like, which on the guitar translates to let's see how that sounds. As we can see, we're forced to change up the lick, in this case making it shorter to fit this more syncopated rhythm. So it's super valuable practicing over different rhythms, maybe even over rhythms with odd time signatures. I made a video about different cool guitar rhythm patterns like the blues shuffle, so check it out for inspiration if you're interested. Finally, realistically, when we're soloing, we're not just going to be playing one lick. So what I like to do at the end with this exercise is to throw in the other licks I know that fit, and then just use this one lick here and there versus only playing this one lick so it sounds more natural. Let's see how that sounds. I find that learning new licks through improvising in this way really helps etch them into my brain and help them become part of my vocabulary so they can come out naturally. Not that backing tracks are bad, I think there's a time and place for them. What I like to do is to, when I learn a new lick, learn through this method. And then for backing tracks, when I play over a backing track, I would focus more on just the flow of soloing versus trying to learn a new lick. There are many other ways to practice with this method, like changing out the chord progression, making the rhythm even more complex, or even limiting the number of strings we can use when practicing a lick. But the basic gist is to not rely on a backing track and play the rhythm and licks ourselves, starting with as simple as the bass notes for the rhythm. But if you must use a backing track, keeping it as simple as possible, ideally with just a guitar rhythm track. If you're interested in learning about different techniques to use for varying up the same lick so it sounds more interesting and fits different situations better, check out this video where I talk about 7 underrated techniques behind iconic solos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.